Hundred and hundredth charts are great ways to represent percents graphically. So this first one that I'm starting with is a hundredth chart. So that means that this whole square, these 100 squares, represent 100%. Okay, so I look at what's shaded, and you see I have 10, 20, 30, 36 shaded. So this square represents 36%. Or I can write that as a fraction. It would be 36 shaded out of 100 in total. Okay, or as a decimal, 0.36. Okay, so that's our first 100 chart. Next, you see I have 200 charts next to each other. So this would help me represent a percent that's greater than 100%. So here I would have 100%, and here I have 10 more shaded. So altogether, if I add those up, I have 110%. So that's the kind of effort you're putting into your math this year, I'm sure. Here I actually have hundredth charts. Okay, so a hundredth chart, each one of these represents 1%. Okay, so this is 1% in total. Okay, so that means that these 8 squares would actually represent 0.08%. Okay, if I get 100 of those, I get up to 1%, right? So that's 0.08%. As a fraction, that would be 8 over 10,000. Or as a decimal, it'd be 0.0008. Okay, and we'll go over more of those, how to convert those from one to the other. But that's what this represents if I'm told I have a hundredth chart. Here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, 64. So again, if this whole thing represents 1%, then what's shaded represents 0.64%. Or as a fraction, I can write that as 64 over 10,000. Or as a decimal, I would write it as 0.0064. Now sometimes we combine the two together. So say here, this one would represent 100%, and this one would represent 1%. So this helps me represent decimals and percents at the same time. So here I have 10, 20, 27 and something. So I know altogether I have 27 point something. And the 1%, the hundredth chart here, helps me get that decimal. So that's 10, 20, 25. So I have 27.25%. Or I can write that as 2,725 over 10,000. Or I can write it as 0.2775. So I hope that gives you some insight about how to use 100 charts and how to read them and hundredth charts. Thanks for listening.